Welcome to the I Am Radio TV network. Today we are pleased to present a new premiere show, Let's Get Real, with your host, Jeffrey Miller. Now get ready to go. Interactive. Well, hello and good afternoon and welcome to IMTV. I am Jeffrey Miller and I am the host of the Let's Get Real show. And each time I do a show, and since we've changed the name to this show, Let's Get Real, people say, what is that? What's that all about? Well, it's about reality when you think about it. It's about what is going on and telling the truth, because it is so valuable today for people to get real and to be that they truly are. And when we invite a guest to this show, that guest, and especially the gentleman I have with you that you'll get to meet today, he's all about getting real. He is that. And his name is Jim Gardner. He's an elite performance coach and culture consultant. Originally from Wichita, Kansas, Jim moved to Dallas, Texas in 1982 to join a high-tech startup. Prior to forming his own coaching consulting practice in 2011, Jim served as a leading executive for several iconic global companies, including McKesson, Pizza Hut, Tandy, Fidelity Investments, and Levi Strauss. Also honoring those who stepped into his life and gave of themselves, Jim's mission now is to work with others on a physical, mental, and emotional preparedness for the opportunities in their lives. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the Let's Get Real show, Mr. Jim Gardner. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Oh, gosh, I'm telling you, I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. Just surpassing the 3-year mark of after being told 3 years ago I'd be upstairs in 6 to 12 months. I feel fantastic. Every day is a blessing, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm happy to have you here as well. You and I met some years ago. Gosh, I think we tried to figure that timeline, but it's got to be, 6, 8 years or something around there at an event in Los Angeles. I was just, I had been studying Tony Robbins' strategic intervention. I got that under my belt, NLP. Then I went on to just hypnotherapy, Ericksonian style. And I said, I love some of these events that are going on. And why are they always in LA? But it wasn't a bad thing to fly across the country from East Coast, from the great state of Maine and Boston. And if anybody hasn't picked up on that accent, I do park the car in Harvard Yard. I do. But these events were fantastic. And the networking, the people we met, and this is an example, you and I got to meet. And through that, also other great people. I mean, it was right about that same period of time that oh my gosh, think of some of the names of the people today that you're involved with in a networking and good friends with, that without going to these events, without investing in yourself, Jim, that's the way I used to look at it. You've got to invest enough in yourself to grow and to be that business person. Otherwise, who can respect you? I mean, and we met some great people. As a matter of fact, just a little bing shout out. What night was it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. I happened to say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Go ahead and give a plug. Go ahead and do it.
Well, a friend of mine, a friend of ours, I should say, actually, it's part of a mastermind that you and I belong to. We continue to try and grow and develop ourselves, as you were mentioning. And her name's Jennifer Moran. And
yes.
She does a weekly show on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. And so I was fortunate to join a common friend of yours and mine, Mr. Glenn Morshower, who's probably the best character actor who's ever lived. And so she interviewed the two of us on her show together. So, and her show, by the way, is called Killing It. So check that out. She's awesome.
So, killing it to Let's Get Real.
Right.
And boy, doesn't that all fit when you think about it. And Glenn, God bless you, Glenn. he's an eloquent man. He's such a gentleman. And I wouldn't be surprised if he absolutely sees something here today. And you never know; he may or may not. He's poked his head in every now and then, as far as in the chat. I have not had the pleasure of interviewing him. I choose to one of these days, I hope, and I hope he'll accept. But here's the thing: he just has this way about him to bring things out, which leads to something that's very important. People say, "Okay, you're a successful guy. We've got, a top executive. Let's see, we got a list here. My goodness, wow. Let's see. We're starting back with McKesson, Pizza Hut, Tandy, Fidelity Investments, Levi Strauss and Company. Wow, there's some top names there. There's some big companies.
They are, and one of the things that I think you and I find to be truly important is that it all comes back to relationships. And so one of the things that I learned early on is that when you really have a heart to serve other people, then they tend to want to serve you and open doors. So I drove by college a couple of times, but I never finished. But in that process, met some gentlemen from my hometown. We can talk about some of that a little bit if you'd like. But anyway, they were founders. Okay, I'll just take that tangent real quick.
Go ahead. Grab it.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people aren't that familiar with Wichita, but we used to call it Midway, USA, or the air capital of the world, because that's where Cessna aircraft, Beech aircraft, Learjet, and Boeing military aircraft were all calling their home. In addition to that, that's where Pizza Hut was founded, as well as Rent-A-Center. Yeah, Rent-A-Center, Coke Industries, and on and on. So what happened was the dean of the business school, and again, just kind of a timing thing, and you and I know who puts together the timing. Anyway, the dean of the business school decided that it was time for some of these founders of these companies and executives to kind of give back. And so it was really, I didn't know what it was at the time, but he kind of started a mastermind that's still in existence today called the Center for Entrepreneurship. And so I got involved at the urging, pushing, whatever of one of my professors, and was able to meet many of these founders and executives. And what I found was that my simple contribution to that organization, which was introducing them to microcomputers back in 1977.
Oh my goodness, imagine that.
That they opened doors for me all the way through my corporate career, not really having the skins on the wall to open the door otherwise. And so that's where, the value of those relationships continues to pay off today. And you were talking earlier, about where we met in LA and the relationships that we developed, from that event as well as others. It's a matter of again, serving, nurturing those relationships, because one door, in my personal experience, opens as many as 100 other doors. And people share with you and me alike, you just know so many people. Well, it's just that I'm curious. Actually, my number one strength in Strength Finders is learner. And I'm just curious about people. I want to know who they are before I even know what they do. It's just fascinating to me. So anyway, the point that I wanted to make was, establishing those relationships way back then were what opened the doors for me to, ignite and then finish out that 30 plus year corporate career.
Oh, that's fantastic when you think about it. I want to talk about Wichita for a second. You mentioned Cessna aircraft. That was the first aircraft I ever flew. It was a Cessna two-seat Cessna 150. It's what I originally got my pilot's license back in 1984.
Well, I was giving mine up about the time you started yours.
Wow.
So, and I too learned in a Cessna 182, or excuse me, a 150 actually.
150, then 172, then the 180. They make some beautiful aircraft and still do, and Oh, I've just seen some right up to the jet. I just think they're phenomenal aircraft. So there you go, Cessna. Give it a
Yeah.
little boot there. Anybody wants to learn how to fly, that's a great aircraft. That's all we're
Right.
going to tell you, and that's the end of that for today.
Well, you know, and just a quick thing there, it wasn't until Bill Lear conceived the Lear jet there in Wichita that Cessna Beach then followed suit a few years later with their own jets.
There you go. There you go. Bit of history, and there's nothing like a Learjet. I haven't seen. I know they're around still, but boy, there's so many others that have kind of taken precedence over them.
Right.
Especially Beechcraft has an amazing jet that they've put out for a number of years, and especially whoever thought that there'd be a single pilot jet available for executives. I mean,
Yeah.
whew,
It's amazing.
I've got several friends that fly all over the United States, and they pop there quicker than you can think. So,
Well, and just one quick thing too. Sorry,
go
all
ahead.
these rabbit holes, but they all kind of tie together. You and I are old enough to remember the 8-track tape, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, sure do.
So, do you know who invented the 8-track tape?
I'm going to have to say no off the top of my head.
That would be Mr. Bill Lear from Learjet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that, Jim.
There you go.
Now we're into history, kids. Wow.
Absolutely.
Would
And
not
this is why
have
history
ever.
is so important.
It is important, and the people you meet along the way, shall you leave a good impression?
Right.
because I'm telling you, you and I both know there's plenty of people we've met that did not leave us with a good impression, and we probably have. They have fallen by the wayside along the you mentioned it before about the opportunity, the door. I say the window of opportunity causes the door to swing open wide to many, many relationships that we have in both life, all phases of life. Let's put it that way, whether it be personal, business, etc. And I love that. I love that. I've always tried, as of you, and that's one of the reasons you and I kind of magnetized and met each other way back then, is because personalities are huge. When you show that you care, and you said that's like the servant soul, right? When you show somebody that you care and you stop to talk with them and you're ready to go, listen with two of these and speaketh with one of these. when you show a person that, they go, and of course, if they want to run on and on and on and on all about themselves, we give them the grace of doing that and say, thank you very much. Not to be rude, but you don't care to even know who I am. So thank you. I'm glad to have received your business card, and off you go.
But let me just touch on that for a second. My wife teases me. My wife Lisa sometimes will be out at an event or out in public or whatever with other people, and I'll see someone that I just want to meet. And so I'll march off, and so Lisa will tell whoever we're with, give him 2 minutes, he'll come back and he'll know their life story, and I will. And it's really interesting. I think so many people are afraid to engage because they don't know what to say. But when you approach from the standpoint of truly being interested in who the other human being is, and you start asking them just basic questions about themselves, what brings you here? Do you live in the area? Were you raised in this area? Then it immediately lowers their defense mechanisms and they start to open up and they will spill their guts because finally someone is interested in them and is taking the time to just, spend a few minutes with them,
Truer than true. We're getting some serious thunderboomers here in Southwest Florida. Wow. Like, wow, it just rattled the house. So if you see the screen shake, ladies and gentlemen, it is from the heavens.
It's not Tourette's.
It's exactly. And it's true when you approach somebody and you just in casual conversation, when they feel that this person cares about me, there's a genuine value. There's an exchange that goes on there. And absolutely correct, Jim, because most often they're stifled. The life they're living or the boss they're working for, the home they're coming from, they're not getting that opportunity to just be themselves and to expose themselves a little bit and say, I am a person of value. Thank you so much for recognizing me today. You change their life when you do that.
Well, and that's what I try and share with my clients, and when I speak, oftentimes is that in my view and my unscientific calculation, the average life of someone is about 80 years. And I believe in that 80 years that you have the opportunity to actually impact the lives of over 100 million people. And when I
Wow.
share that, people are like, they say, wow. But if you really think about it, I mean, every time you are outside of your domicile, your home, whatever, walking down the street, walking, through a shopping area, walking through an airport or on an airplane, people are watching. They're paying attention. We don't think that they are. And just flashing a smile, truly looking at someone in their eyes, searching for their soul, develops a connection, a trust level that could change their day. We've heard the stories about, people who left suicide notes and things like that. But it could change their day, change their life trajectory. And so just, our demeanor, the way that we carry ourselves with a smile or like we hate the world, can make a huge impact, because we're going to impact them one way or the other.
Might as well be that way.
Exactly.
Might as well be that way, because those that are walking around with this disgruntled attitude that the world's all wrong and I'm all right have got something going on that's not all right. Let's be serious. We see a lot of that, and it's pervasive in our society, not only in this country, but in the world today. People are so caught up with that stuff. They're so full of themselves that they can't see anything or anybody else. It's all about me instead of we. And it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be, we're here to serve. You mentioned it right up front. And how many people really feel that? I wish we had a show of hands banner. I'll tell you what. A lot of people don't sense that today. They sense that we've gone way beyond that, servant. And I don't know, some people, well, whoever taught me that? Well, that's a good question too.
Well, as you heard me share last week on Jennifer's show, for me, it's been a learned behavior. I wasn't that way, when I was young. I was one of those who it was all about me because I didn't think anybody else was about me. So to a degree, I've walked in some of their shoes, so I understand. But what I also understand is that when someone reaches out to reach out a hand and pull me up, that there is that opportunity to step up. And I think that's what's so critical. And again, I think for, me being a servant to others, it's identifying people, who could use a hand up and, reaching out and doing that. Because it not only changes their personal dynamic, it changes their family dynamic, their community, again, their life trajectory, and those that are closest to them.
You just hit the nail on the head, brother. I have this philosophy I've been living under for quite a long time, and it's let's give a person a hand up, not a hand out. Exactly. And when you give them a hand out and they're down and out on the bottom, and you help lift them up, not just to feed them a meal for a day, not to throw a McDonald's hand. No, I'm not going to advertise McDonald's. Not to throw a burger at them today and let them go out and starve again tomorrow, but to help them up and to help them realize they have value.
Right.
They too have that. It's intrinsic. It's an intrinsic thing that's within us. Every one of us possesses that seed of greatness, like Zig Ziglar said. Every one of us. It's a matter of fact, do we attempt to even find it? Allow it to grow. Allow it to be nurtured, watered, nurtured. And our good friend Glenn Morshower spoke of it. Oh my goodness. If I can't say it the way he says it. It just is an amazing thing when you think about how, and the seed is pushed into, it's in darkness where it grows. It comes out of the darkness. And with the right conditions, it will grow. Without the right conditions, it will not.
Correct.
The parable of the sower in the Bible is the same thing. Some four different positions of the seed.
Right.
Some did, some didn't. The one that
And
got all the right conditions, because that's the way it was set to be. Amazing. Brings me to a great question. You mentioned, and this was talked about previously as well. How valuable was it to you when you had that one person or two people in your life? You say that you were kind of running the rocky road, and you had a teacher, I believe, that really helped you. Could you tell us about that?
sure, I'd be glad to. So his name was Louis Billard, and I'll put that out there, and then we'll back up a little bit. So my mother, I won't, just in the interest of time, we'll go into all the details. But anyway, she divorced my dad when I was
Mhm.
about 10 years old because she had become infatuated with this guy who had escaped from prison in North Carolina. He'd been incarcerated pretty much all of his life for one thing or another. And this was back in 1967, 68 timeframe. And if you can imagine that type of environment coming into what I had known previously as my home, it flipped my life upside down. And we all, well, those of us who are your age and my age, we remember what was going on in this country back in the late 60s, not unlike what's going on today, unfortunately.
Very true.
And so what I found was that actually being out there on the streets and doing the things that get done in the streets, from arson to assault to burglary, you name it, I was right in the middle of that. And so it was just a very challenging time. I was very, very angry
Mm.
at that age, beginning at about 12, not having hope, honestly, from the standpoint of I saw no future. And I got to the point that I didn't care about anything else or anybody else. And
Wow.
other people were just objects. And so, as I shared the other night, I looked at them as they were an obstacle that were was in my way for what it was I wanted in that moment. And so, very challenging. I'm dyslexic, so school was not a great place to be. Certainly was not a place of comfort. It was very, very
Mm.
challenging. So I rarely attended. Um, and it was just 8 years of just really hopelessness, anger that I can't even articulate to another human being. And for some reason, it was very conflicting from the standpoint that I had all of that anger and hate, but I also just wanted my life to end. It was like I was trying to survive, but I was trying to die at the same time. And so, looking back years later, I realized that I was being carried through that process for a reason. And so I'll come back to that in a moment. But one of the things that I learned early on in the streets was, again, I saw how people carried themselves, how they interacted with each other, and those who were reactive typically didn't fare very well. In fact, oftentimes their lives ended because of their reaction. But just as an example, there were times, in fact, when I was in my early high school years, there was a YMCA that was literally in the heart of the ghetto, as we called it at the time. And I would lay
Mm.
on the floorboard of cars of my black friends to go down and play basketball on Friday nights in that YMCA because it was packed to the rafters, because it was the only thing going on and everybody there was there to bet. And I was the only white guy. And so, if you can imagine all of the dynamics going on with that, but there, so it was, kind of that reverse feeling that so many of my black friends felt when they were in, the white element. But guns being pointed at my head and
Mm-hmm.
drug deals going bad, those kinds of things. But what I learned was that everyone is a human, and every human is simply looking for acknowledgement and love.
Oh,
And
wow.
if you can figure that out, what that is, sometimes in a matter of seconds,
Mm-hmm.
then you can change the circumstance. And that happened multiple times to me. So carrying that forward, I believe was my lesson. What I learned that years later I was able to apply in building the relationships that we talked about and working with the clients that I work with now.
That's
But
fantastic.
it was that teacher that you mentioned, Louis Ballard, who stepped in about halfway through my senior year in high school and simply confronted me and just said, I've heard the stories from the streets. Once in a while when you show up to school, I see, your behavior, and you're either going to die soon or you can change the world. Have you thought about going to college? And I laughed because he knew what my grades were.
Mm.
He knew the challenges, and I just thought he was humiliating me. And he was persistent, stayed after me. And again, this is where, I think a servant's heart is not an easy um, engagement to carry oftentimes. And that's why so many people shy away from it. But he was persistent. He didn't give up. And I graduated with my class, and I actually started college that next September.
That's
And,
fantastic. Wow.
yeah. So I had been asked to be part of a compilation book. I think it was 2012 actually, and so wrote my story, and he was included in it. And then I met a woman here just a couple of years ago who asked me if when she knew my story, what my teacher thought about my story, and I said, well, he doesn't know. And
Oh, wow.
she just laid that guilt blanket all over me and gave me an ultimatum as far as going back and finding him. I didn't know if the man was even still alive, but I was able to find him, track him down, and gave him a copy of the book. And we had a great discussion. Part of which I found out that he and his wife had never had kids, and
Oh, my
so
goodness.
why would he choose a street hoodlum like I was? And he didn't have an answer. He just said it was just something he felt that he needed to do.
He saw something really good in you, Jim.
He had to look hard, I'll tell you.
Well, maybe he didn't have to look that hard. Maybe you don't know what we don't know, and I think there's a person by the name of Glenn Mushow had said that too. It's
Right,
probably a movie.
true.
It's probably a movie line. Uh, that said, we don't. We really don't. So we don't know. We don't know about him and what was his life like growing up. Maybe he had this thing that said, you know what? There's tons of good kids, but there's kids that are good that need that hand up. They need
Yeah.
that hand up. They need to be pulled up out of that environment that they're living in and give them a shot, give them a chance, give them some encouragement, give them some words of wisdom, make them feel internally like, you know what, you do have the seed, and it's not a bad one.
Yeah.
It's a seed that, if it's nurtured and grows, you can become and do great things.
Well, and just that experience, speaking of seeds, and again, I didn't realize all these things at the time. I didn't really put them together, but he planted the seed of honor in me with that.
Mm.
And so, there were times when I backslid, even, before I graduated, but even times afterwards where I would have triggers that made it very, very difficult to stay on the tracks. But all I had to do was think of him and honor him for what he had done for me. And, that pretty much straightened my head out pretty quickly.
I would have to say, if I was to ask you who were your greatest influences, I think that man must be kind of top of the list.
He definitely was, and fortunately, and again, I think this is again the the opening doors that we talked about. but also just the life plan that, as a follower of Jesus Christ myself, I believe he had a plan to carry me through all of that, and to, for me to learn in the fire. So it was the college professor that I referred to earlier that really became my next influence, the guy who kind of, put the pressure on. And there was actually a gap after I was at Pizza Hut and before I came down to Texas, where because of some of the technology that I was helping to develop at Pizza Hut, at the ripe old age of 22, he hired me to be his general manager of his furniture company, which was
Wow.
multi-state and retail, wholesale, and so on. And so he, continued to influence me in that way. And then the gentleman that hired me to come down to Texas, it was again just a chance, open door. I was totally blind to it, but he had graduated from West Point, from the Naval Academy, was a Marine, and was Ross Perot's right-hand man at Electronic Data Systems at the time that we actually met.
Wow.
And so
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am also a Christ follower, Christ believer. And when we look at that story, which I believe to be 100% true, I have no reason not to have all that faith and all that belief. As they say, as little as a mustard seed. Talking about the seed again. We are brought into the fire sometimes. There's no question. And I know it's for a good reason. And God says he will never, ever allow us to be in a situation that he knows that we can't handle. Now, I'm going to tell you, and you can probably admit to this too, I've certainly been in some situations that I said, how in the name of God can I handle this? And really screeched it out and said, this isn't even, how am I even going to see the light of day through this, let alone see that there's an end to this? But that end in that situation does come. It does come.
Right. And I shared this with somebody just a week or so ago. I believe God does give us sometimes more than we can handle. Because
here we go.
Because in my experience, when those times have occurred where I truly felt I couldn't handle it, and again, going back to my adolescence, I didn't know God, but he knew me. And,
okay, that's right.
But in those times of challenge, since I did give my life to Christ, those times were when he knew that I needed to come closer to him. So he gave me more than I could handle so that I would draw near to him.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that. Very, I have to say I will agree with that. Yeah, if I think of, and I'm not going to get into all these things in my life, but that's not what this is. But I'll tell you what. Yeah, because certainly there were times in my life where I said, I don't know how I'm ever going to handle this. And somehow, some way, with that guidance and that hand up, it happened. I emerged from the other side. I won't say unscathed, but and unchanged. I was certainly changed and scarred. But not scars that you show, emotional scars that were meant to be there to change this, to change what that thinking in that direction that I think that I was going, that I wasn't supposed to be going, in that place where I wasn't supposed to be. And we could go on and on about that. So, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to ask for we're going to take just a 30-second break, Jim. We've got a little station identification, and we'll be right back, folks. I hope you're enjoying this chat between Jim Gardner and myself. And if there's any questions, if you'd like to chime in the next half an hour, we'll be certainly answering some of those. But we do have a lot more to talk about. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Thank you for being here with us at the I Am Radio TV network. Have you ever thought about sharing your message to the world? Or perhaps you'd like to talk with us about being a guest on one of our many upcoming shows. Either way, reach out and contact us at the I Am Radio TV Network at gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And now, back to the show. Get ready to go. Interactive.
All right, and we're back with Mr. Jim Gardner. Wow, Jim, I have so many questions, and I don't know how long we're going to be here today. Typically, you know what? Yeah, me too. I'm just saying, you know what? We'll go as long as we can go. And I have a list of things I wanted to ask you because, as you know, you and I lost a little bit of track with each other. You can't hear me? I don't know what's going on. Hang on one second. Let's see. Testing. Yeah, no, I've got Mike. Check your end. You can't hear me? Okay, I'm showing good. Say something to me, and we'll see if we got you. Not sure what's happening here, guys. Let's see. How about now?
That works.
I don't know what that's all about. I've had that happen once before, and it wasn't my fault, but I'll accept it.
Well, it showed your microphone being muted for some reason.
Isn't that strange? It's not supposed to. It's supposed to automatically come back into play. I guess I'll have to turn that in as a little bit of a glitch in the software. So
right.
we say.
We can work. Where
was I? Because before I got totally shut off and muted. I was actually going to say, you know, we met each other way back then, and I think we saw each other at least a couple of different events. And then, I mean, I know because we met Mr. Craig Deswald back then too, as well as a bunch of other people. Oh boy, great times. And I think we've got. Let's see. Hey, look at this, John.
John Rao.
Hey, John. How are you?
He's a Wichita boy.
That's I think, yeah, he's saying that, isn't he? From Wichita. Good to see you, John. So thanks for stopping in. Yeah, there was some great times back then. I remember, you know, all of the speakers at all of those events were fantastic, but I think the camaraderie and the networking at the VIP luncheons and the after hours and things like that, I think we had a lot of fun. There's no question. Everybody had a great time.
Absolutely.
One of those talk about leading up to, you went from the corporate world and coaching. When did you realize that was something you wanted to do from being corporate America? I mean, you know, I know myself living and working in corporate America way back. I was in the city of Boston with a shirt and tie for many a day and jumping on a plane and traveling to New York and all over the place. And I liked it, but I didn't like it, if you know what I mean. I think it was a thing that was good for my younger age. But as my older age started to happen, or should I say middle age, thank you, John. We appreciate that. Good to see you too. When I'm at, you know, the middle age stuff came in, I said, you know, and then I had this epiphany, as we should say. And that was about 10, 12 years ago now that, you know what, I've done all of this and I've done all of that. And there's certainly more to do. But with all the knowledge I've picked up and all the crash and burns along with the great successes and you know, earning a great living, etc., and not earning a great living, etc., too at times, I felt the need to invest in myself again and pull out the, you know, just pull out all the stops and say, okay, what is it about me? There's something that I need to know more. And that's when I got involved with Tony Robbins coaching. And that was the beginning of where I am now, and I'm glad that decision was made, and because it allowed me to become that coach, because I needed that coach. I also needed a great coach, and these days, most great coaches I know have one, two, or three great coaches, mentors. We don't call them coaches per se sometimes, but they are. They're coaching us if we have a conversation, but they're mentors. So what brought you to that point where you said, and I don't know if it's a conscious decision, but it's a decision to be a coach?
Well, for me, it was a slap upside the head, and but it was a good one. So I'll kind of back into that situation once again, um, and I'll just touch on the personal development piece. So about the time that I started to turn things around in my life when I was younger. My maternal grandmother, she always had the TV on, always something going on, and both of my grandmothers, I always enjoyed being around them. They were just great women and very grounded, and so I always called them church ladies, again because I wasn't participating at that point in time. But my maternal grandmother, every Sunday morning, watched this show that took place out in California at this facility called the Crystal Cathedral. And
Crystal Cathedral, yes.
the pastor was Dr. Robert Schuller.
Right.
And it was just his delivery, the things that he talked about just drew me in. I had no idea what personal development was at the time, but the things that he talked about I could connect with and just made sense to me. And so I bought his book at the time, Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really the start. But then, once I, started all of this with college and working with the Center for Entrepreneurship and going throughout my corporate career, what I found that I really enjoyed the most was developing people. And, it's kind of like you look at someone who you would consider to be very successful and wealthy, but what you don't see are the failures, the challenges, the disappointments, the chaos that has gone on behind the scenes. And that's, true as you know, in the corporate world as well. So, these iconic companies, I was right in the middle of significant challenges oftentimes. In some cases, just one project I'll tell you about that failed was $1 billion project.
Wow.
And so you kind of stress out about a few of those things, no matter how solid you may be emotionally and things like that. So it was the people, and even working through some of those challenges that I found that I really enjoyed. So the thing that
Jim, I'm getting some fade on your mic. I don't know, we're getting a little static there.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's still there. I don't know what it is. We got it all of a sudden. There you go. You just right
better?
there. It's gone. It's gone. Yeah.
Okay, great. Anyway, all of my direct reports had to do an annual plan, and that annual plan was different than most people would think about. So, what was really their marketing plan? So it wasn't that they just had a title or a role that they filled, but what did that responsibility actually entail? And we're going to blow the doors off of that box, because you're going to develop the who that you are before you develop the additional skills that build your capability and capacity and tenacity. And you're going to share that throughout your organization as well as externally. So across the organization, to suppliers, whatever the case may be, because there is so much more value in what you bring to the table.
I just lost you again. I don't know what that is.
Can you hear me now?
No. Well, I can just barely hear you. I don't know what that is.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Can maybe pull your mic up just a little bit more? Can you just sit up? I've not heard your mic ever be like this. Yeah, definitely it's cutting your volume down. Very staticky. The static is still all there. Now there's no static.
I'll try and hold my breath. Anyway, the point is that we all bring more value than we give ourselves credit for. So it's really stimulating that growth of those individuals. And then one of the things that I drill in and did, with all of them, how are you utilizing your time? So there are three ways you can utilize time. You can invest it, you can spend it, or you can waste it. So show me your calendar. And I would literally go
Mm.
through these calendars, and it's like meeting, 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 meeting.
There you
Why
go.
are you attending this meeting? And so we would peel all of that back. So all of that to say, what they soon found was that they could take a lot more ownership by identifying and promoting the value that they brought to the table. So their work was much more satisfying. And I reminded them that they are a free agent every day, and what you do today is what earns you the right for me to ask you to come back tomorrow. So it was a different mindset from that standpoint. I didn't really call it coaching. I didn't really think about it that way. Just that I saw how they lit up and how they performed so much more
That's it.
effectively.
Excellent.
And then what happened was that a good friend of mine, who is the director of finance at Levi, decided to retire early. We'd all kind of gotten burned out, global company, traveling all over the world, and so on. His son is a physician in LA. So his idea was, doctors go to med school to learn how to be really good doctors, but they don't learn how to run a medical practice
Mm.
or, that type of thing. They don't have a business head. So with his background in finance, I'll start coaching doctors on how to run their practice. And so he called me one day and he said, you're so good with people. I think you should consider being a coach. And it's like, man, I don't know. I just kind of, blew it off. And then after I left corporate a few months later, I ran into a gentleman who a lot of people will recognize by the name of John Maxwell. And he was
Right.
just in the process of working with a couple of other guys, Scott Fay and Paul Martinelli, to put together what we now know as the John Maxwell team. So and John, right after I met him, got a phone call, and it's like, I really want you to consider, being a part of this and get into coaching and speaking. Well, it happened in my church, so it's like, okay, that's more than a nudge. I've got to listen now and pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I stepped into coaching.
Divine intervention.
Right. But I quickly, realized, and you and I talked about this, Jeff, that I wasn't going to be John Maxwell, didn't want to be John Maxwell, that I needed to identify my own gifts and talents. And, it was about that time when you and I met. And so I think what is evident is that it's, creating opportunities to, meet all kinds of sources that you can learn from, that you can get nuggets of content from, nuggets of wisdom, whatever the case, quotes even, and then formulating those into a system that works for you, and then being able to, identify your avatar, if you will, as to who you feel like that you want to work with, that that content and that style will resonate with them. So that's how I ended up ultimately through some iterations, but ultimately for the past several years working with elite athletes.
There we go. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, I want to talk more about adaptive training, et cetera, too. Your volume just slipped down again. I don't know what's going on there. Let's see if we can do a mic check.
That
No.
How about that?
Yeah, if you come up closer to it, it's a little better.
Is that better?
Yeah, but it's not boomy like it was. I don't know what happened.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me try something here. Hang on.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, I can bring something up, and I want to, ladies and gentlemen, if you would Let's see here. Right here, you'll see a little banner around on the bottom. It says subscribe to our IamRadioTVNetwork.com. Here's what's going to happen in the next few minutes. For those of you pre-show that went to the channel, or I should say went to, and based on the advertisement we've done on Facebook, etc., on this, if you would go to IamRadioTVNetwork.com and sign up on that page, we're going to give you a special gift for being here with us today. We're also going to do this if you're watching in replay. And the reason is it's a shameless attempt at building up our new YouTube channel. It's something that I hadn't done in the past, and I think it's very valuable to have the archive of all these fantastic interviews with the greats that you can look back at later, and people can see them for the rest of time, for significantly anyway. So go to I Am Radio TV. Just what that banner says there, IamRadioTVNetwork.com. Sign up there, and you will receive from us a $100 hotel savings card. You go, what? What do you mean? It's called a gift, and shamelessly we're doing this. Again, as I said, the gift has no smoke, no mirrors. There's no other attachments to it. It's just something it's not going to pay for a whole hotel room, but it pays a chunk of it. Let's put it that way. It's a savings card. And it's also great for rental cars and other things. And when you sign up for it, you will, within 2 to 3 days, you will receive that. You'll receive notification and your email, and you will get that. That's a thank you from us. I also want to say one other thing. When you've done that, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to say something, which is a code number. When I give out that code number, 3 of the people that have gone today, right now, during this show or after, or I'll give it 24 hours. So if you get the chance to watch this in replay, will win. You say, what is this? Make a deal day or what? So you will win a 4-day, 3-night hotel vacation stay at a luxury resort on us as a thank you to us. Now, it is not timeshare. There's no smoke, no mirrors. There's no attachments to it. You'll simply get yourself there, and you'll pay the room tax, and you will pay the resort fee. And you say, oh, well, that's where you got me. No, that's not where I got you, because some of them are as low as $30, and none of them, even in Hawaii, are more than $100. So how's that? On a $400 stay in Hawaii, you pay $100. So again, you got to get there, room tax, resort fee, and 4-day, 3-night stay on us. 3 people are going to win that as a thank you for signing up with I Am Radio TV. So again, that gave me an opportunity to get that out. So I'm just in about another 2 minutes, I'm going to give the code out on that. Show you still be with us or watching this in replay. Jim, let's try your mic.
All right, how's that sound?
Yes, I got you.
Get rid of a little technology and it makes it better.
I don't know what it is. Sometimes the mics do that, especially with the boosters in them. And I know this one does. This one's giving me a fit every now and then too. And you go right back over the earbuds and say, "Okay, that's that." You
Right.
also serve on 2 boards, I believe. One of them is Adaptive Training Foundation. I'd love to talk about that. You and I talked about that. I think more and more people need to hear about this, and it is a nonprofit, correct?
That is correct.
All right, because you want a place to put your money. If you get any extra coin, this is a great example, folks. So go ahead, Jim.
Sure. So as you and I have talked, Jeff, excuse me, the Adaptive Training Foundation that's here in Carrollton, Texas. It was just a blessing that came across my life. Again, a door opening. And as you'll probably be able to tell, I'm as passionate, if not more so, about that than I am my coaching and clients. But anyway, 5 years ago, through a friend of mine, met a gentleman by the name of David Vibora, who played in the NFL for 5 years. That's a whole nother story that you and I have talked about, Jeff. But
yes.
Anyway, he retired after 5 years, still short of 30 years old, obviously, at the time. And he and his wife, Sarah, moved here to Dallas, and David started a gym where he was training professional athletes. Through yet another common friend, a former Navy SEAL, David met a gentleman by the name of Travis Mills, who's from up in your neck of the woods, Jeff, as we talked about, up in
Yes,
Maine.
yes.
And Travis was in Afghanistan, I believe, on his third tour. Stepped on an IED, and now is one of just a handful of living quad amputees.
Amazing.
He's lost the biggest portion of all four limbs, but just an amazing young man. He's married, he has a family, and now he speaks all over the world about his story. But anyway, he and David met, and the question that all of us that are affiliated with adaptive training always ask when we see someone is, what happened, first of all, and have you thought about getting in shape? And so Travis's response was, I don't have arms or legs. How would I go about doing that?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And David just invited him to come to the gym and they'd figure it out. So David asked Travis, what are you afraid of? And Travis said, well, honestly, falling. And so they started working on his core and helping him with his balance. Are you there, Jeffrey? Hello?
All right.
All right, now you're back.
I just know I did a zoom. When I do a zoom in on you, it eliminates me.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted people to get a full focus on you to hear what you were saying.
Well, I'm glad I put my TV makeup on then.
I should have told you that. Surprise!
Right. Anyway, to fast forward a bit, it just became a great success. David has a degree in psychology in addition to,
Wow.
being an elite athlete himself. And so it all just came together and more people found out about it. David met other veterans. He started running into civilians and was found really kind of the same result. And what happens is that once you show someone who has a physical impairment, they're not disabled. We just say they're differently abled.
There you go.
So it's adapting to being differently abled and showing them what's truly possible that traditional medicine or family or they've somehow planted that seed in their own head was impossible. At Adaptive Training Foundation, our tagline is we defy impossible every day. Wow. And when people see what they can do, it completely changes their mental dynamic. And two, as you and I have discussed, I have yet to meet anyone, once I truly understood what it was all about in my life, anyone who doesn't have some element of PTS. Most people know it as PTSD, but it is so prevalent that I choose to drop the D. It's no longer a disorder because
Right.
so many people are challenged by it. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are challenged with it don't even recognize that they have it, but it changes their behavior. So we start to work with that. We've got some partnerships that take that further and deeper into therapy and counseling and that type of thing. But anyway, we now have a 9-week program that athletes come through, and we take 15 athletes in each 9-week period. We do 4 of those per year. The first one that we do every year is what we call Military to the Mountains. So it is exclusively for military veterans and first responders who, again, have some type of physical impairment. In that class, obviously, it's something that they've encountered in life. In some of the other classes with civilians, it may be a birth defect, someone who was born without arms, for example. But with Military in the Mountains, it may be that they have encountered a stroke or that they have encountered Parkinson's disease. So obviously challenging them physically and mentally from what they had come to know up until that point. So we work with all of that. And even with some of those diagnoses of Parkinson's or, post-stroke, multiple sclerosis, whatever, again, there's just a limit on what people believe is available, and we show them differently. And we challenge them. They become part of what we call the tribe, self-subscribed. And it just is an incredible community that develops, which, in addition to the physical, mental, emotional, the third leg really is that community. And so for anyone, who's been in the military or who has family in the military, what that brotherhood type mindset is, whether it's male or female. And so for civilians to be exposed to that, just changes how they look at one another as human beings, how they look at, each other as that community. And with the tribe, what we always say is that no one is greater than the tribe and no one gets left behind. And so these people will literally give their lives for their brother or sister. So like I shared with you, I can talk about it all day long. You can watch videos on YouTube or whatever about Adaptive Training Foundation. But once you walk through the doors of the facility, it will be an experience that I promise you will never forget. The energy, again, people defying impossible. And so, people ask, because we have people that come from all over the country. We've had a few from outside the US as well. But the way that we build it is being able to have trainers, athletic trainers, and people in different disciplines along those lines who have a heart for the adaptive population, as we call it. And so we help them understand how to work with those people and have even developed a certification. So if they're from, let's say, a 24-hour fitness or a Lifetime or something like that in New York or LA or wherever, then we can show them how to do, what is necessary and what we've learned. And we continue to learn every day. But then they can take that back to their facility, back to their community, and expand it. So, gyms are like 7-Elevens and Starbucks. There's one on every corner. So we're not interested in building more gyms, but
there you go.
We just want to be able to share this out. And the adaptive population continues to grow, unfortunately, because of the lifestyle that we've developed in our society that creates some of these physical impairments, whether it be, amputation due to type 2 diabetes or, things that ultimately bring on a stroke or, bring on other maladies like Parkinson's and those types of things.
Wow. I love it. I love it. I can tell you that having come from the Vietnam era myself, I have many friends that came back. Some were in body bags. Some came back not the same guy who went over there.
Right.
And you talk about, the body bag situation was bad enough. The counts were high. But those, and it's very emotional to me, those that buddies of mine that went into the Marines on the buddy system, and then one of them comes back dead. One of them comes back so messed up, you don't even know. I don't know if he even knows who he is anymore. Right. We'd go down to the VFW to have a beer, and somebody would make a loud noise or say something, or a beer mug might get tapped on the bar, and the next thing you know, they're in battle. They're back in battle. Man, I can't tell you how many guys we had to all kind of grapple and kind of get him to calm down. You want to talk about post-traumatic stress. Woo! So war does that. And now we've got an ever-increasing amount of women, in the last 20 years going into battle as well. I don't think we even need to go down the rabbit hole as to why we're going into these battles, but boy, I do question it, but we'll leave that there.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is,
one important thing that I do want to add is that for the 200 plus athletes that have come through our programs, and we do now have a short intensive program that we've just developed that is 10 days, because obviously it can be challenging for people, out of state or whatever to come for 9 weeks. So it's a 10-day intensive program that is available in addition to the 9-week programs. But of the over 200 athletes, as we call them, they have never paid a penny to
That's
participate
fantastic.
in the program.
That's fantastic.
And they won't. And once they come through, they are an alumni basically for life. As long as they want to continue to participate and be part of the tribe, then we have, add-on programs that they can participate in. So it's completely privately funded. We've been very blessed. But as most people know, with a nonprofit, that's a never-ending search.
It sure is. Raising those funds is a job for many.
Sure.
It's a job for all of us, by the way, folks. adaptivetrainingfoundation.org. I've got the banner up for it right now. I'm going to wave the flag on this right now. It's right there. How many people do you hear about that come back from battle with serious impairments? And that's that. And I know I went off down the road of, I was thinking of PTS again, and I'm like, whoa, what kind of PTS do these guys and gals have that have lost those limbs, that they went a whole person and they come back leaving pieces behind? Now there's still a whole person, but it's up here as well. So that's that. You imagine there must be a lot going on in that part too to help them overcome that.
Well, there are, and what's interesting also is that many of these people, they've never been competitors, they've never been athletes before, and some of them are in their late 20s, some are 40s. I think the oldest person we've had so far is early to mid 60s. But they actually truly become athletes. I can tell you story after story where someone has come in on a walker, come in a wheelchair. One example, a gentleman who had been in a wheelchair in his mid to late 30s for 6 years due to a disease. A year after coming to the program, he's running para-triathlons. And it's just they're out there climbing mountains, quite literally. They're doing Spartan races, cycling, scuba diving.
Love it. I mean, that is allowing them to feel that wholeness again. Bring that full circle. Wow, that is so beautiful, Jim. Well, so beautiful.
Like I say, just a tremendous blessing to have had that cross my path and be able to participate.
Wow. So I was thinking, gee whiz, we could, you and I said we could go on and on and on. What is the one thing that you want? Now, this is a question you and I talked about. What's the one thing you want people to do who are listening to this podcast right now, to this show? Let's get real, folks. Come on now, here it is.
Well, it is do. That's the key word. It's take action. And I'll just tag it from the perspective what you and I talked about a few minutes ago. We've kind of been lifelong learners. We have been all about pouring into ourselves so that we have more to pour into others, personal development and that kind of thing. But what I find so often, and even with, the relatively, again, elite athletes and C-level executives that are my clients, that so much of it just sits on the shelf. They don't put it into action. And I think even with some of the challenges that we face in our society today, we have the wherewithal, we have the knowledge, we have the wisdom, and we think about it, but we don't take action. And it comes from a place that most people don't recognize, but again, I work with my clients on, it's self-betrayal. We are actually betraying ourselves by not taking the action and putting these things into play for our lives, as well as for those that we love and care about. And so we life is short, life is precious. And, just with none of the people at Adaptive Training one moment ever thought that they would qualify to be part of Adaptive Training Foundation and then within an instant, their life was changed, whether it be, again, a stroke,
Wow.
a car accident, stepping on an IED. And so, none of us should wait to take action on what we know we're capable of and getting out there and doing it. So I just invite everyone who, is live with us today or listens to this some point down the road to truly look in the mirror and what is it that I am capable of and know that I need to take action on.
Beautiful words, Jim. And I hope, folks, you'll listen and really take action. The A for action word is huge in my arsenal as well. Nothing is accomplished if you don't start. One step at a time, though they may be small, it's okay. Just keep on going. So,
Right.
Jim, this has been fantastic. I want to thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Gardner, Elite Fit Performance, Jim at jimgardnerlive.com. Please also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shamelessly, I've offered a gift to every one of you that will do that. You may go to, also, I'm going to give the code right now. Go and reach out to the I Am Radio TV Network at gmail.com. That's the I Am Radio TV Network.com. Tell them you saw this show, and the code is 77. I love sevens. So 77. Tell them 77. I remember, reminds me of a show, 77 Sunset Strip, years ago. That was a good one. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this show, because Jim and I sure have, and we are going to be back together again before too long. I am taking a break for about 2 weeks, heading to the woods of Maine to get some little bit of R&R, and my wife says, you won't relax there. There's so much to do. Yeah, there is, actually. I'm going to be selling a lot of stuff that's been accumulated over the years that's in storage up there from after 20 years of having 2 businesses up there. And all of that is in retirement now, and I'm living in just beautifully living after being diagnosed with cancer down here in Southwest Florida, Fort Myers, and enjoying it. Even the thunderstorms, even the lightning, even the 100-degree Saharan desert sand days are still lovely. But you see, that's an attitude. That's an attitude. So there will not be any show next Tuesday or Thursday. Let's see, there won't be one. Yeah, right. And no, this Thursday, because we're Tuesday today. Calendar's catching up. We're almost ready to celebrate the 4th of July. Can you imagine that, Jim? And I truly hope, ladies and gentlemen, that you can celebrate it with some peace, with some blessings. Pray for what's going on, because it can and will change. With enough people in prayer, we can change this thing. And as far as COVID going and on the rise again, there's nobody any more concerned about that than me with a compromised immune system, I'll tell you what. But I can't live like I'm dying every second of every day. And that's an attitude, okay? And that attitude is the why I beat it for 3 years. And I continue to do so, because Jim told me the average age is 80, so I've got to go there. I've got to go there. So there you go.
Well,
so, ladies and gentlemen.
And Jeff, before you
go
hang
ahead.
up, I want to express my thanks to you and my love for you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I love so much what you do, but I love who you are as well. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, brother. I love you too. And here you go, folks. Jim Gardner, Elite Fit Performance. Get a hold of Jim. Talk to him about anything to do with coaching, adaptive training. Oh my gosh, that's just so wrapped around my heart to think that is available. And we won't even go into why the VA doesn't have it, but never mind. We're not going to go there. And again, the I Am Radio TV Network at gmail.com, 77. Tell them you've seen the show today. And we're going to pick 3 winners from that. Not going to do more than 3, but we will choose 3 people. So take advantage of that, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you so very much. Jim, thanks so very much for being on with us. Hang here with me as soon as we're off air. I'd like to chat with you. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you from my heart. I am Jeffrey Miller, host of the Let's Get Real show on IMTV, and we'll catch you after vacation. We'll be posting that on the page. So thanks so very much. God bless you all. Bye-bye.